Welcome to the Pretty Powerful Podcast, where powerful women are interviewed every week to share real inspiring stories and incredible insight to help women or anyone break the barriers, be a part of innovation, shatter the glass ceiling, and dominate to the top of their sport, industry, or life's mission. Join us as we celebrate exceptional women and step into our power. And now, here's your host, Angela Gennari.
Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of the Pretty Powerful Podcast. My name is Angela Gennari, and I'm here with Jen Joe. Hi, Jen.
Hi.
So Jen Joe is a business mentor for introverted coaches who would rather be off living their best life than spending hours posting on social media or DMing strangers. Jen teaches them to lean into what's natural for them and uses her proven impact method to help even the most introverted person gain the skill and confidence to fill their calendar with paying clients. She takes her years of experience as a curriculum writer and teacher trainer to develop top-notch programs that deliver results to 100% of clients who use them. And when she's not transforming the lives of her clients, you can find her enjoying the expat lifestyle in Mexico or lighting up the dance floor with her amateur salsa moves. I love that. Where do you live in Mexico?
It's Mérida, Mexico as of right now, but I am scouting out Guadalajara to check out if I like it a little better.
Nice. Very lovely. Well, that's beautiful. Yes, I've been to Mexico many, many times. So congrats on that move. That's exciting.
Yeah, life has been amazing. It's been a year and a half almost.
Oh, that's amazing. Okay, good for you. And where were you prior to Mexico?
I was living in Houston. I'm originally from New York, and then I got tired of the hustle and bustle and mostly the cold. So I moved slower pace of life, better cost of living, warmer weather. And then I was there for 9 years, and I was like, okay, it's never felt like home here. Let me go and explore this opportunity now that I work for myself. I'm completely remote. Let's go see where I really like. And then Mérida just kept coming up in my YouTube search. So
nice.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. So I was from the Northeast as well. I grew up in Pennsylvania. And after the blizzard of 96, I said, I will never, ever.
That was epic.
I will never dig myself out of a blizzard again. And so I had to pay, I was in college. I didn't own a shovel. So I had to pay a homeless guy to help me shovel out my car so I could go to work. So because he was walking around with a shovel, kind of helping everybody out, and you could just pay him and he would do it. And I just said, you know what? I'm never going to own a snow shovel in my entire adult life. And so I just moved south until it stopped snowing. So
I love that. Yes. Yeah. People romanticize the snow when they haven't experienced it. But when you're from the Northeast or, north, and you know what it's like to actually live with it, you're like, no, it's nice while it's falling. It looks pretty. But then after that, it's just hell to try to get rid of and deal with on a regular basis. Yeah. No.
Yeah, it looks pretty in the movies in LA when it's fake snow, but they're not the ones with like the brown gross slush that is what flies up on you when you're trying to walk across the street and like your feet are always wet.
Or the sleet and where you're gonna fall, right? I've fallen, right? And I used to go to Catholic school, so I had the little skirt and tights, and I've shown up like wet. Falling.
Having to bring snowshoes and then change into your regular shoes, and then you have to lug those things around all day. It's not that nice. It's not for me.
Where are you now?
I'm in Atlanta.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So I moved until now snow is like the threat of flurries causes complete panic and everybody shuts down. So there's no going out in the snow here, which is okay. Even though we get flurries like once every 4 years, we just shut the whole city down and say we're not dealing with that stuff.
I'm dealing with 105-degree weather here now.
Okay.
So that's
all right.
I'm the complete opposite. And I'm like, this is too much. I think I find a better happy medium.
That's right. Very cool. So you got into a very interesting little niche. So you're talking about doing business mentoring for introverted coaches. So what steered you in that direction?
It was actually, I have a background in education. So I was everything from a teacher to administrator to a teacher trainer and curriculum writer in my own company writing curriculum. And just knew that staying in education wasn't going to be it for me. There's just too much that I hadn't experienced personally, that the whole system itself needed a whole redoing. that I just, there, as many years as I put in, I just couldn't fix the issues that I
Mm,
saw.
yeah.
And it was never going to give me the time freedom that I wanted, the control that I wanted, the flexibility that I wanted, the ability to live anywhere. Like it was just way too many things and roadblocks for me to ultimately have the life that I wanted while being in that industry. So I hired my first coach back in like 2016. And it was literally me being all into personal development and hearing about, okay, everything that I read or
Mm,
saw videos of and stuff, everybody was just like, get a coach, get a coach. And I was like, okay, this is the next natural step. I'll get a coach. And I
yeah.
hired a coach in hopes of helping me figure out what I could do next. But I remember vividly explaining this vision that I had a year or more prior to hiring her. I was like, okay, this is the vision. I hadn't told anybody this because it just felt really weird to
Uh-huh.
say I want to help a group of people achieve their goals. Like I wanted, that would be amazing if I could get paid to do that. And she's
Mm.
like, coaching. And I was like, what? No, that's not what we're doing. You're just like listening to my problems and helping me figure it out. That's different. So it took me a while to kind of like accept that she was right and that's exactly what I wanted to be doing. And when I did, it was not easy at all. Like I watch people and they're like, "Oh yeah, I decided," and then the next year I made 100,000, and the year after that I tripled that. And I'm like, "What? That was not my experience at all."
Yeah.
Like at all, and not for like trying, right? So eventually, once I did accept that, the following year, I did start telling people that this is what I was going to do and getting comfortable with saying it. Then I was met with lots of self-doubt in a
Mm,
way that I didn't really like see other people that were being successful talking about any of it. So I was like, this must be a me thing, right?
mm,
Like self-doubt that I'm experiencing around it and having trouble just even saying it, like really promoting and being out there. So it took me a while and I was like, you know what? It's because I'm not certified yet. That's what I need. So I went and got certified and I finished that certification program and I was like, where's the confidence?
yeah.
Where's it did not show up. It did not magically show up, nor did the clients, right? Because somehow and apparently many other people have this belief that once you get that certification, the confidence is going to show up and the clients are going to show up.
Yeah, if you build it, they will come, right?
Yeah, it's like, I'm ready. I set up shop. I have the website. It's finally live. Like I told a few people, like, where are the clients, right? And
Mm,
where's my level of belief that this is a sure thing and that I can actually deliver? And it just didn't happen. And I struggled for so long until it was literally the end of 2019 when I made my first dollars.
mm.
And what I realized, and it was like the happiest time of my life, I literally made less than $2,000. And I
Yeah.
had been going at this 2016, I had the realization and I had been going through the motions and through the process. And it wasn't until 2019 when I made less than $2,000 and I was like, oh my God, amazing,
I
amazing.
made it.
I made it in life, right? And I knew that with pennies logically. I did have a
Mm,
full-time job. I had had a consulting company before that. So like I knew what real money was, but that just proved to me that it was possible.
hmm
I had figured it out and I had cracked the code of what actually mattered in this process. And literally,
hmm
and I say to this day, there's a Facebook post in my Facebook group and I made the announcement that I would live abroad, that I was going to quit my job and I was going to move abroad. And I was like going all in on my coaching business. And I made this announcement in 2019. Like I had just,
Wow.
like it wasn't enough to live off of, but I was so certain that what I had figured out would work.
Mm,
And that I was so committed to the process that come 2020, I was going to do this full time. Like this is going to be my thing, which
that's
is funny.
awesome.
Everybody knows what happened in 2020. But so I was off by a few months because I wanted to leave June 2020, but it wasn't until September 2020 that I did eventually quit my job and go full time in my business. And then eventually, I am living abroad. So I did the things.
That's so awesome. Well, good for you. I love people who set goals and then like ferociously go after them. So, I love that. So, you talk a lot about confidence and like how do you get your confidence and how do you do this? And so, talk to me a little bit about what it took for you to get that confidence because I think a lot of people go into any new venture like, do I belong here? Is this for me? Tell me about your experience in that journey.
Yeah, so of course I was following a bunch of people and seeing what they did and like consuming a lot and trying to produce, but I always felt like I was falling short or like there was this missing piece that I just didn't have because I would watch them do it and they just seemed so comfortable doing it. And then the volume at which they were doing it, right? Like this whole idea of posting on social media multiple times a day. And I'm like, I just don't have the energy. I don't have the time. I don't have the bandwidth. I don't have the skills to be successful at this because I've been trying, right? But it wasn't working. And that's when I really had to lean into, okay, what's my way of doing it? Right? Where are the gaps for me and how can I fill them so that I feel like I can show up and can have this business and being willing for it to not look the way that it was looking for everybody else. Because what I eventually realized right now that I see and I niche down to say I help introverted coaches is that I was trying to follow a lot of extroverts in the format that they have and what they're doing and what comes natural to them. And I'm pushing myself and I'm like whipping myself to do it and then shaming myself because I can't or it's not working. Right. So I had to be willing to let all of that go and then take a few steps back and meet myself where I was and what felt good to me. And so the way that I built my confidence, instead of just going out there and starting to charge high prices, it's like a lot of people teach, right? Like just, and then you'll get quality clients. I'm like, well, I don't know where these people are. I was in education. Like these people aren't rolling in the dough like that, like this is my network. I had to be willing to step back and be like, okay, I don't even feel comfortable charging something high. Why don't I just offer it for free? Right? Why don't I just build my confidence in helping someone right now that I feel like I can help and let's see where it goes. And that's what I did in 2019. I offered to help 2 people that I knew that could benefit from my services. And that built my confidence. And then after that, I did offer because they were asking, what do I have to do to continue working with you? After our time, even before we finished our 6 weeks, they were like, okay, like I want this to continue. This has been really beneficial. And then I put a price tag on it that I felt I could deliver on and I could totally feel really great about serving them in this way. And then that's when I was like, okay, serving people first, right? At the level where I am at and that I feel comfortable with and just serving more people that I feel like I can solve that particular problem for them. Sure, I'll do that. And I found a platform that already had a bunch of people looking for coaching. And I just leaned in all the way to that. No one had ever been talking about that. Right. But I'm like, that's where I found, and it was my brother who asked me, how'd you find your first coach? And I was like, I told him, he was like, why don't you do that? And I was like, that's kind of genius. Okay. And it actually really worked. It really worked because it allowed me to offer my services to people that already wanted it. Offered me the opportunity to stop wasting so much time on being on social media and trying to learn all these other skills that I just did not have to be able to make that system work, right?
Yeah.
And it allowed me to fully blow my business to full-time income that following year. So from less than $2,000 to full-time income in part-time hours. Right?
That's amazing. So I love that. And I love that you figured out what works for you because so many people try to find the exact formula that everybody else is doing because if it works for everybody, it should work for me too. And that is so not true. And not only that, but you're putting yourself into a situation where you are now competing at their level you're competing in their game but you're not at their level and that is the hardest part that entrepreneurs and small business owners have to figure out, like with me, I'm in the security industry and I've already decided like there are certain large companies in my industry I can't play their game at their level. It's just not the same. We're a small minor percentage of what they are in terms of revenue and scope and scale and all these other things, and we just can't do it. So what we do is we do what we do better than anybody. So the best thing that you can do is really figure out your secret sauce and then double down on that and then
And
really go and lead with that.
you really, really hit it on the head because so many people are looking at the people that they admire, that they learn from, that they consume from, and that's what we aspire to do. We want to do it at that level. It's like, but
Right.
you can't. You don't have
Mm-mm.
the funds. You don't have the customer base. You don't have the years of experience. You
Mm-hmm.
don't have the team to be able to execute at that level. Yet those are the strategies that we're trying to implement. And this is why I always felt like I was falling so far behind and falling short of what I felt like it should be or should look like.
Yeah, because instead of looking in the mirror, you're looking, at them. So, you're looking at them and saying, well, what do they have? And, how do I get that? That's not what you want. You want to look in the mirror and say, what do I have? And how can I create more of, what I do best? So that's brilliant. I'm glad that you decided to take that step because I'm sure it was a major pivot point for you.
Extremely, yes.
Yeah.
But it led to my success and
Yeah.
my progress that I now get to help other people with.
Yeah, and I love that you decided that you were going to go ahead and increase your confidence by doing it for free at first, because sometimes just the ability to help somebody will come back to you because you're like, okay, this is what worked for me. Because if you were nervous about charging people at all, then that was a strategy that worked for you. It's not going to work for everybody, and I definitely don't say go give your services away for free forever and ever. And like you have to.
Definitely don't.
Yeah, you have to turn it into a business eventually, but it's a great way to build your confidence. It's a great way if you have other income coming in, which you did, you were able to use that parlay your experience into, okay, now I can do some paying gigs because now not only do have I helped people and I've built my confidence, but also you can probably get some great references there.
Yes, right? Because in my process, if you're coming at me from zero,
Yeah.
that has to be part of it because I want you to be certain that
Yep.
you know how to do this work and you have real results. And even if those first few people that you did it for free for don't turn into your paying clients,
Yeah.
they are your cheerleaders. They are your referral source. They
Hmm.
know people, and they can lead uh, future paying clients into you. So don't ever feel like it's a waste of time. But like you said, there has to be a limit. We can't just keep giving it for free because the business requires income, right? If
Right.
not, you have a hobby. Yeah.
Exactly. You have a hobby and you've devalued, what you do. So you definitely want to use that experience and then just parlay that into something that turns into, it's a revenue. So so you're an introvert, right? So you are an introvert and you're going into a very extroverted field, all about, showing your expertise and helping others. But teaching is also fairly extroverted, wouldn't you agree?
Yes, right. You do kind of feel like you're a performer when you're on and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And even training, like,
Yeah.
I'm very quiet and stuff, but if I'm up and I'm presenting, I can do that, right?
Yeah.
But the
Yeah.
thing is, I'm gonna have to rest after.
Hmm.
I'm gonna give it my all, and it's gonna be amazing, but I'm gonna be tired. I'm gonna
Yeah.
need my rest time, and I'm gonna need a lot of time to recoup and
Yeah.
to get back to doing it. So I needed ways that would be sustainable for me to keep on doing it. I need
Mm.
market that didn't drain me to the point where I'm like, I need to just be away from everybody for a week.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's the key of in helping my clients find that for them because it's not always the same thing for me, right? Like for me, I love podcasting. I'm like, that's a one-on-one conversation. I get to go deep. We get to
Yeah.
connect. Perfect.
Yeah.
Um, some people like networking events. I'm like, oh, all that small talk feels awkward to me. I'm not a fan.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do,
Exactly.
right? Like they know how to get in there and do that. I have a past client who loved doing TikTok
Oh,
and being on
interesting.
social media. And I'm like, she loved it. I'm like, great, do your thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's just a matter of finding what that thing is for you that is sustainable.
Yeah. Very cool. So you developed something called the impact method. So can you tell me a little bit about that and what it means for your business?
Yeah, so the impact method is basically all the components. It's a framework that you follow to make sure you're hitting all aspects that need to be in line for you to be successful in this. Identity shift has to be a big one. I think that one took me a long time because I had been in education for so long, and the idea of even saying that I was a coach was so difficult because I felt like it sounded kind of corny. Like, what do you mean you're a coach? Like, like that's a popular thing, so everybody's kind of doing it, so I had a lot of that going through my mind. So getting comfortable with that. The mindset shift is an excellent. It's like really treating this like, no, this is a business. You're not an employee. Like, get okay with the idea that income will fluctuate and you still have to do the money generating activities. You have to show up for it or you're not going to get a paycheck. Um, yeah, so the P is the practice, right? We talked about practicing the skill and being okay with just practicing it, even without pay at some times, just to build your confidence in doing the thing that you're trying to do now, right? Like in creating that practice container of so it's successful for you and for the people that you're supporting. Then attracting clients, how are you out there attracting them? What works? What feels natural? What feels good? What's actually working? Evaluating it. What can we let go of? I was so happy when I made the conscious decision that my social media could just be for fun. That's just extra. It did not have to be the thing that brought in money, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, C is the consultation calls. You have to know how to have productive consultation calls, because without sales, you have no business. And it can actually feel good. And I always teach that it's serving the other person, right? You are literally serving them for free on this call and giving them the opportunity to get more value by working with you, right? And just coming from that place, it actually doesn't feel like you're being salesy, right? When you really embody that in your conversations. And then the T is transitioning to full time, like what needs to be in place. Because my first time quitting my job to do the consulting, oh my gosh, it was horrible the way that I left. I was like, okay, I'm gone. I just can't take this anymore. And then I was super stressed out about money. I was doing some crazy things like renting out rooms in my house just so that I didn't have to go back to the job. And then I realized, like, no, I just really need to be coaching. So I had to shut that down, go back to the job, and then grow, and then transition properly into coaching full time, like making sure I had the things in place so that I didn't have to run back to having a job again. Yeah.
That makes so much sense. So when you're talking about transitioning, that can be the hardest and scariest part, right? Because you're putting 100% of your trust in you and your ability. And so it's one thing to collect a paycheck and say somebody else is out here and that's my safety net, but you're basically taking away your safety net and saying it's okay, I'm going to walk across this tightrope right now with no safety net. And it's so scary.
It is. And it's funny because people think, well, if you're making good money doing that thing, then like why would you be afraid? But this I knew the reality of being an entrepreneur prior, and I knew what it was. Those months fluctuate. It goes up and down. And you need to be willing to deal with it and be okay with making some changes and just to set yourself up for success. So I made a big change that people thought was crazy, but I sold my house. I was like, okay, I care more about being in business full time and living this lifestyle that I want to have more than I care about this home. I want to buy a home with coaching money, right? The money that I made from coaching. So I can buy a house again, but I'm going to get rid of this. And prior to that, like I told you, I was willing to rent rooms out in that house so that I didn't have to keep the job. But knowing your numbers and having a plan of what you're going to do should everything fall apart really helps. I think it was Tim Ferriss that I heard this from, but it was kind of like the worst case scenario planning and planning for that. And I really had to calm my nerves and my whole nervous system about the process, knowing that, Jen, you're in education, worst comes to worst, someone will hire you back. They need people. I mean, even if you can't go back at the level that you were, because I was an administrator and I was higher up and I was doing training and developing a curriculum and everything like that, even if you can't go back to that level, you can go get a job. You will be all right. I will take care of you. And like I literally told myself, I will take care of you.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, because it was very real, like this fear of the worst that could happen. And I had experience from when I was younger, being with a partner and being evicted because I thought my partner was paying rent. And that created some serious trauma around money, right? So just like telling myself, like, we're okay. I saved enough money here. And if worst comes to worst, we have this thing. And remember, we sold the house, so we have that cash sitting there just in case. We have a cushion. And then being willing to lower my expenses, right? Like moving abroad also helped because I lowered my expenses. So just really running through the numbers, running through all the things that could happen, running to the process of worst case comes, what would I do? Who would I turn to? What do I have access to? All the things, and making sure that I felt okay with it. And then reminding myself, I have skills that an employer would find valuable and that I could always go back, and not shaming myself for the thought that if I did have to go back, I would. Because that's the biggest thing, I think. It's the fear of like, what will others say or what will others think? And it's really, what will we think of ourselves if I do have to resort to going back to that.
Yeah, and everybody looks at that as like a worst case scenario, but it really is not, because that's the one part about being an entrepreneur is sometimes you fail and the best thing you can do is get right back up. And so if you have to go and fail and reassess and, go back to a regular job, and it's not the worst thing ever. The worst thing ever is, when you're trying to do something and you hurt somebody else in the process, right? Like that's the worst thing ever. And so as long as you did give it your best and you just need to reevaluate, you just need to reassess, there's nothing shameful about going back and saying, okay, I tried that. It didn't work. It's okay. Let me figure out how to try again differently. And that's okay. And so, that's one thing we got to give ourselves a little bit of grace. And it's the hardest thing to do because we want to succeed so badly, and our heart is in it and our brain is in it. And, we're fully invested in ourselves, and we don't want to let ourselves down.
Yeah, and I think coming to the realization that I wasn't going to stop trying to build this business, like it was always going to be something that I was striving for and pouring into. Even if I did go back and get that job, I wasn't going to stop trying because my heart was in it and I was all in. And I was like, you know what? Even if I just made the same amount of money that I made from my job doing this, I would be so happy knowing that I have full control, knowing that I could do this wherever I am. That would be worth it. And thinking about the worst case scenario, like part of the worst case to me is thinking that I never gave myself the opportunity to see it through, try,
Absolutely.
have that.
Mhm.
Like, I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't want to live with that regret. I'd
Right.
rather live with, okay, I tried my hardest and it
Yeah.
didn't. So I kept trying and I always kept trying, but it didn't work out.
Hmm.
Then, oh, I just maybe what if?
Yeah, yeah. And you always will live with that too. And it'll feel like, you just never believed in yourself enough. And it's hard to come back from that. So that's really, I mean, it's amazing that you decided to jump in and achieve these goals. And, you gave yourself a reasonable timeline. You gave yourself reasonable goals. And success looks different for everyone. Success isn't always making 6 or 7 figures. Sometimes success is, hey, I have freedom. I have enough, to be able to live the lifestyle that I want. I work 2 days a week. That's success. Like everybody just defines success differently. Some people say I have more time to spend with my kids. Some people say I can travel more. And so, you just have to remember that just because somebody else has defined success in a certain way doesn't mean that's the same way you have to define success. So figure out what your success looks like, and then make sure that you're catering to that and not just trying to kind of keep up with the Joneses kind of a thing where it's always trying to get to meet somebody else's idea of what you should be doing.
Yeah, I love that. And that's a big one because people thought I was crazy to move abroad. And, they're like, what do you mean? Why are you selling your house? Why are you doing this? But I knew what mattered most to me. I was like, no, I like having stacks of money in the bank. Like that makes me feel good. I like the freedom I have to be able to go live anywhere. Now, I'm not one of those nomad people that want to move all the time. Like, oh no, I like stability. But I do like the freedom that I can try out different countries. um, this is amazing to me, and it was so worth it. It was so worth it. And of course, there's moments where it's stressful, self-doubt still creeps in. I'm working through those exercises, right? You want to go to the next level, and you're striving to make even more to help even more people. But I would not trade it for the world. Like, yeah, this was the right move for me.
That's really amazing. And I applaud you for living abroad, because I've threatened it so many times. I'm like, I'd love to live abroad, and then, one thing happens, another thing happens, and then you never take the opportunity, and now you have a kid in school and you're like, yeah, maybe when he graduates. So yeah,
Yeah.
I applaud you for taking that risk and doing something that was going to be really meaningful to you. So that's amazing. So you decided to get into coaching from teaching, and I feel like both of them are very similar, in terms of being an influence in somebody's life and being, somebody who can help guide and instruct them. And a lot of people talk about coaching being so similar to therapy, and that's kind of what you were talking about in the very beginning. Your first coach, you're like, I feel like she's telling me something that I need to hear, and it's almost like therapy. So tell me the difference between coaching and therapy and teaching, really.
Yeah. So I love this question because no one's ever added the teaching component. But when I think of therapy, right, you're taking someone who's not producing at the baseline level, right? So they're below the baseline. And they're just trying to, and especially focused on what caused this, right? From the past. What in the past happened that's causing this now, right? And let's find some closure and healing from that so that we can get to the baseline. Now, with coaching, we're taking people that are at the baseline or above the baseline and want to go even higher, right? There's something that they're striving for. Their life is fine, like they're okay, and we're really future focused, thinking about who they want to be, what they want to create, who they want to become. Teaching is different in the sense of teaching, you are the one with all the knowledge, right? And you're sharing this expertise and this knowledge with those that you are teaching.
Mhm.
Coaching is really trusting that the person you are in front of has value. They're bringing a lot. They have the answers. We have to just pull it out. We have to help them see. I teach my clients that when I'm training them as coaches, like what you're doing is holding the mirror for your client. You're
Mhm.
holding the mirror so they see their thoughts and what this action that they're doing is producing, and they get to decide whether or not this is working for them and what they're willing to do different.
Yeah.
So I in my practice, I'm a mentor. As I tell them, listen, there's moments where I'm coaching you, but then there's moments where I am your mentor, and I'm going to tell you, don't do that. That's a bad idea.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
need to stop you from going down that road. So yeah, they're all very different, but there's a place and there's people to support with each one.
Yes, absolutely. Well, and I think it's so powerful because like I had avoided coaching for a long time because I'm like, I'm just too busy. I'm too busy. I'm too busy. I'm too busy. But I recently started working with a coach, and what I'm realizing is I was too busy on the wrong things. And, by giving myself that freedom and that time to really focus on the future, I can stop being in the weeds in my business. And so, one of the things that has kind of come to light through this is I need to be focused on the future of the business and not the operations of the business. And so the daily operations can be handled by somebody else more effectively because I can't be in the present and the future at the same time all the time. So, you really kind of have to start adjusting to, your vision, how you look at, your day-to-day business. Are you spending your time as effectively as possible? Or can your coach help you work through those minuscule details where you're like, okay, is this the best use of your time, or can you find somebody else who can do it as good or better than you? And most of the time, the answer is yes. You can find somebody who can do it better expertise, more time, more high touch. There's so many things that a coach can kind of help you see because as an entrepreneur, you just get so in the weeds and you can't see the forest through the trees. And so you're just like, here I am, and I'm not seeing what somebody from looking from the outside in can see.
Yeah, I now have multiple coaches and for the past few years have as well. And I think I'll always have a coach
Yeah.
for some, like whatever area of my life I'm trying to upgrade, I'm gonna have a coach. So right
Yeah.
now, my dating coach and I have my business coach.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes I've had just like, a general life coach and a business
Mm.
coach or just the life coach. So yeah.
Good for you. Yeah. Well, and that's, the self-awareness is the one thing I feel like more people need. And a coach helps you with that. Like a coach helps you be more self-aware of like, hey, is this a me thing or a them thing? Or like who's causing these issues? And a good bit of the time, it's the person in the mirror. And so you just have to come to that realization of like, if you can't control what's happening, look at why it's happening and how you're reacting to it. And a lot of times you can change what's going on around you just based on your reaction to it.
Yeah, and I think some people think it's funny that I'm a coach that has a coach, and they're like,
Uh-huh.
"But you're a coach." I'm like, "Yeah, but I'm like really close to my problem. I can't see a
Right.
problem.
Right.
I need an outside person to give me that perspective."
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
while I can self-coach and that's helpful, sometimes I'm just so in the emotion that I can't. I
Yeah.
need someone else to just objectively tell me show me what's happening, what I'm doing, so I can be like, "Oh, I see it now. Okay,
Uh-huh.
I want
Uh-huh.
to do something differently."
Yeah, I was having a conversation the other day with my coach, and she said, "So what are you doing for downtime?" I'm like, "Oh, I started reading." And she's like, "Great. What are you reading?" And I'm like, "It's a book about business." And she's like, "No." no, Angela, you're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong. That is not. She was like, oh goodness. But she's got her work cut out for her. So what am I gonna say? But yeah, so that's been something that has been a big difference. Coaches make you see things that sometimes you miss. And I think it's so important for so many of us to just have that self-awareness. And, sometimes somebody has to show it to us in order for us to really see it. So you're absolutely right.
Yeah, they also help you up level, right? Like
Hmm.
I know that I'll give the dating example. I am quick to just stop the process. I'm like, oh goodness, this is
Mm.
stressful. I'm gonna take a break. Right.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, but I've been dating for so many years. She's like, you've been on a break most of those years though.
Yeah.
Like you've been on a break for some time. You've been actively searching for this many weeks.
Hmm.
And to make me do things that push me out of my comfort zone that I would normally not do. So right now it's a business card challenge, which is basically giving hot men my business card.
Oh, there you
And
go.
ready to giving 20. And I'm like, I would never do this on my own. Right? It was like
Yeah.
stretching me to grow. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. I love that. Yeah. I'm quick to quit on the dating thing too, because as soon as it's like, well, I know, and I always use business as an excuse. I'm too busy. Oh, I've got too many other things going on. Oh, I just can't focus on it right now. And so, it's really just that I don't have the tolerance
Yeah.
for it.
You're being honest. Yes.
It's like I'm tired of being set up for disappointment. I just am not gonna deal with it anymore. So I just quit on
Yeah.
it. I'm like, I'm just too busy. So tell me about you went from teaching to entrepreneur, and they're very, 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 very different. So tell me some of the pros and cons of being an entrepreneur.
Oh, the time freedom.
Hmm.
I see clients Monday afternoon through Thursday now. There will be a point where Mondays aren't even days that it's going to be Tuesday
Yeah,
through Thursday. I'm slowly getting
yeah,
there.
yeah.
But I purposely set up my calendar the way that I want to. I have time to take my naps. I'm a sleepy person.
Hmm.
I make my schedule where I can do that, right? I love just being able to walk my dog in the middle of the day, do whatever I need to. I remember previously just like a 10-minute lunch, scarf my face
Yeah.
down, get back to solving problems for people at the school building.
Hmm.
The income, there's no cap to how much I can make. I set my pricing, right? What feels good to me. The people that I get to connect with, like
Yeah.
that's amazing. The other people that are thinking the same way, that are growing in the same way, that are striving for the same things that I want, being
Hmm.
able to work and live remotely, that's been amazing. And then the results that I get to help my
Yeah.
people create, my clients, like that's the best. I get to work with people that want to work with me. And
Hmm.
I remember as a teacher development specialist, that was my actual title. I would go into these schools and I would tell the principals like, "Hey, I'm here to support your teachers, help them grow." They would give me the teachers that were very reluctant to their support. So I'm dealing with people that already didn't want support from their superiors, and
Right.
I'm having to support them. They don't want me there.
Hmm. That's
That's
right.
not fun. That's not the people I want to work with, you know?
Right, right.
Um, and then I was really the one that came with all the insights to that. Like I was in a position where I kind of knew more
Yeah.
in that sense. And that's not always the case with my client. My clients are freaking amazing. Like they're
Hmm.
engineers, they're school visionaries, like they're amazing people. And I get to learn so much from them, and everyone's different. So
Yeah.
it's really a joy. Logistically, I am not based in that location in one school or multiple schools. Like I can be wherever and do my work wherever I see fit. So that's been really
Hmm.
cool. And it's just the system of education too that I felt was really flawed, and I didn't have control over changing some of the major pieces where I have full control in my business. If
Yep.
I don't like the program or how it's being delivered, I don't see it as being effective. I'm responsible. I can change it,
Yeah.
right? We're
Yeah.
gonna fix it. And one of the things that I'm extremely proud of is that those clients that work with me for 6 months, they all get results like 100.
Mm,
That's unheard of, right? But that's just my level of commitment to serving them and making sure that everyone gets what they need to be.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Very cool. So, who inspires you?
Um, I don't think I have one particular person. I mean, I have a few people that I'm like, oh my gosh, you're so amazing.
Yeah.
But I think what I find most inspiring is seeing people do things in an authentic way and
Mm,
showing. And
yeah.
it could be the most regular person doing, it was karaoke the other day. I'm like, oh my gosh, that is so inspiring. You like to
Yeah.
sing out here doing your thing and like just having fun with it. That in itself is inspiring.
That's awesome. Yeah, I agree with you. I love seeing people in their element, just embracing life. I love that. So, as women, we often give our power away, whether that looks like, taking criticism or listening to somebody tell us that we can't do something and then, taking that to heart. So, or, something offensive, sexual come-ons, things like that. We often give our power away by not standing up for ourselves. Can you tell me about a time that you gave your power away and maybe another time that you stepped into your power?
Yes. Oh my gosh, that last
Yeah.
piece that you said. I remember, and this was back when I was teaching in New York in a prominent school, high achieving school. And there was a school leader that spoke to me in a way that was extremely offensive.
Hmm.
And like he chastised me like I was a child. And
Wow.
it was it was like mortifying. And then I left that situation and went to dinner with my cousins that was already planned. And I was just worried I was going to get fired the whole time.
Mm.
Like
Wow.
he was in the
Yeah.
wrong. Yeah, I'm worried I'm gonna get fired, right? And I just
Hmm.
remember multiple situations being in school environments, and it didn't matter whether it was in New York or whether it was in Texas, just the level of disrespect that was thrown my way as someone who was lower in the totem pole as a
Yep.
teacher, and
Hmm.
then as a Black woman, and what
Hmm.
I heard and what I watched them do to the people of color in the system and how they took us from being in a position of school like leaders,
Yeah.
and we were the first ones to be pulled back into the classroom when all the teachers were quitting. But it
Oh
wasn't
my
our,
gosh. Wow.
it was people that looked like me, and it was so
Wow.
it. Um, and that's when I decided to flip to switch and say
Hmm.
right. And I think that was a huge turning point. And I am no longer going to stay silent and watch this happen and just complain with my colleagues. I'm speaking up.
Good
And
for
when I
you.
called and they asked me to go and step in and kind of essentially demote me into the classroom, even though I was a leader with way more experience than my colleague
All
who was
right.
in the classroom last year, uh,
Hmm.
I said no, and I stood firm on that, and my supervisor was like, well, we all have to do what we have to do and we have to come together. So we'll talk about it later. I said, you could talk about
Wow.
it. My answer is no.
Yeah.
Standing firm in that was so like I didn't care what happened next. I was not going. I was not going to be a part of that. And I did not. I did not go.
Good for
So
you.
yeah. And then eventually when I was getting ready to leave, I made sure that I spoke up about some of the injustices I saw rather than just leaving and
Good.
not anything because I saw my colleagues doing that. They would just like find a job elsewhere. And I'm like, no, but if we don't speak up, this person stays in power. This continues happening to the
And
next
nothing
person.
changes. Right, exactly. Yeah, yeah. So many people are at that same mentality of like, I don't want to say anything. I'll just go away. I just want to be done with it. I don't want to think about it anymore. But then you have more and more and more of the same thing and nothing ever changes. So if you don't step up, if you don't say anything, then it's just laying a pathway of, tolerance is acceptance. And so you can't say I don't accept that and yet still tolerate it.
Exactly. So I spoke up. I definitely spoke up.
Good for
And
you.
I just think it would be so hard going back to a job though, because
Mm.
of those many situations that I've experienced where I'm like, I don't
Mm.
want to put myself in a position where that can happen to me again. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. 100% agree with you. Well, good for you for stepping up and saying something because I know that was very difficult, but very necessary. Very
Yeah.
cool. So, what advice would you give to your 18-year-old self?
Oh,
Yeah.
um, girl, have fun,
Yeah.
up, and the next right step will be revealed, and that's all you need to know. The next right step. Keep going. It's working. It does all come together in the end.
Yeah, I love that because no one's ever said that one before. Take the next right step because you're so right. Sometimes we just get so caught in like, well, what does 6 months look like? What is a year? What about tomorrow? Let's talk
I
about
was so
tomorrow.
I was so future focused. I was
Yeah.
focused and worried about like my career and where I was gonna go and
Yep.
oh, lighten up. Like
Right. Right,
you know,
right. Exactly.
you're gonna
Yeah.
get there. It's all gonna come together. It's gonna get
hmm
figured out. It's gonna be
I
worth
at
it.
18, I had already determined what 30 years old needed to look like. I had
Oh,
already said I need to be here at 30 years old. And when I became, when I turned 30 and I wasn't there, I was so disappointed in myself. I was so just like, gosh, I have failed at life. Even though life was so good. I had just had a brand new baby. I was, like
um,
life was so good and I just couldn't see it for what it was because I made this stupid thing, this stupid plan when I was 18 years old and didn't know anything. And I didn't meet that, and I held myself to a standard that was ridiculous for when it was started. So
yes.
yeah, so we live and
Same.
we learn.
Same.
So so I just have one more question. I've really enjoyed this. You're such a pleasure to talk to. So Jen, what would you wish more people knew?
Self-doubt is normal and it's
Yes.
okay. We don't
Mm,
have to wish it gone. We can work through it
yeah.
and take action anyway.
Yeah. And even the most successful people in the world have self-doubt.
Yes.
Everybody has self-doubt.
And I think it's funny because you think, okay, well, if this was gone, then I could just do the thing. But trust,
Mhm.
at that next level, there's going to be another
There's
layer of
another thing.
self-doubt. Yeah, there's another thing you're going to down. So for that, I say just be willing to make peace and like, there's activities that you can do. And I actually have a freebie that people can go check out if they do
Oh,
want to work.
nice.
Yeah, just go to jenjo.com/self-doubt. And there's exercises and activities that you can do to kind of work through it, move through it, process it, and take action because
Mm.
it's okay. However it looks in the beginning, it will get better, I promise.
Yes, absolutely. And I apologize if anyone can hear my dog snoring like a grown man over here, but it's obnoxious. He's distracting.
I have a
Um,
huge one too, and he's
okay,
been good.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's over here and it sounds like a grown man is snoring right next to me, and I promise you it's just a dog. So it's funny. But thank you so much, Jen. You have been such a pleasure. So how can people find you?
I'm active on LinkedIn actually, a little bit more lately. So Genjo coaching on LinkedIn as well as Instagram. I'm on Facebook. I'm an old school girl.
Yep, me too.
So find me on Facebook. And
Good.
then directly on my site, genjo.com. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jen. You have been such a pleasure to work with, and I wish you so much success.
Thank you, Anne.
So thank you for all of your incredible insight throughout this entire day. So I appreciate you very much and hope that you just do incredible things and help so many
So
people.
much.
So, all right, everybody. Well, we will catch you on another episode of the Pretty Powerful Podcast next week, but you can also check out Jen Jo when you go to prettypowerfulpodcast.com. Thank you so much, everyone. Have an amazing day.
Thank you for joining our guests on the Pretty Powerful Podcast. And we hope you've gained new insight and learned from exceptional women. Remember to subscribe or check out this and all episodes on prettypowerfulpodcast.com. Visit us next time, and until then, step into your own power.